Welcome back. We hope you are enjoying your DeepUp Summit 2023 so far. We have an exciting session ahead. Before we begin, I want to remind you that this session will be recorded and made available later on IDEA Lab website. Additionally, IDEA Lab members will receive a written synthesis of this session, providing comprehensive information and case takeaways. Many thanks to our sponsors, the Radium Foundation, Glassbox, AudioBoost, and DeMark for making this summit possible. Thanks also to the Fondation Elia, who collaborated on the event accessibility session in the framework of ALDESUB. Now, I give the floor to our speakers, led by Fernando Pinto da Silva.
Hello, welcome to our roundtable discussion titled Reading Born Accessible Content, a New Journey for Assistive Technology Manufacturers, and essential in alliance with the European Digital 2018-882 Directive, obligation to make books natively accessible. I'm Fernando Pinto da Silva. I'm what we usually call digital usability expert at the French Federation of the Blind. The French Federation of the Blind and Visually Impaired, founded in 1917, is a collective of activists, users, professionals, and volunteers working together to enhance the social and economic inclusion of visually impaired individuals. As a key partner of public authorities and local elected officials, the French Federation of the Blind strives to improve the living conditions of visually impaired individuals. I'm also president of the DAISY France group, and it means an organization committed to extending the use of the DAISY formats to provide access to information for the population with disabilities in France. Before giving the floor to our panelists, which is obviously the most important today, I would first like to really thank the European Digital Reading Lab for organizing this digital publishing summit that highlights accessibility, which is often at the center of the debates. This is an opportunity for me to commend the ongoing work of this organization in this field, work carried by Laurent Lemeur, Daniel Weck, and more recently by Gauthier Chomel. So today, we've got 3 companies, 4 panelists, and I would say our first panelist is Stefan Knecht, CEO of Bones AG. Hello, Stefan. Stefan?
Hello, good afternoon. This is Stefan Knecht from Bones. Hi, I was on mute. I just had to unmute my microphone. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks.
Can you just tell us a couple of words about what is Bones and what are your products in a very quick way, please?
Yes, Bones, by now traditionally since 20 years, stands for the Milestone product, which is a handheld reader, a book reader for DAISY books, EPUB books, or even Audible books. It's also a voice recorder. That could be the most important functions by now.
Thank you, Stefan. Matthias Carlson joined us as the product manager at Dolphin Computer Access. Matthias, hello.
Hello there. Nice to meet you.
Same question. Can you just tell us a couple of words about Dolphin, what it is, and what are your products?
Sure. Yeah, so I work for Dolphin, which is a UK-based company, but we have offices in UK, US, and Sweden. And Sweden is my office. And Dolphin, we develop solutions for people with vision impairment, and our solutions have the accessibility first in mind when we're developing new features and services. One of the products I'm in charge for is Dolphin Easy Reader, which is a free reading app that connects to almost 50 online libraries around the world. And Easy Reader makes books accessible for users with dyslexia and visual impairment.
Thank you, Matthias. And last but not least, we've got Humanware today with us as well, with Mathieu Paquette and Dominique Labeo. What is Humanware? What are your roles there, guys?
Well, I'll start. I'm the product manager at Humanware. So basically at Humanware, we develop a wide variety of products for blind and visually impaired people, from low vision products to Braille products to audio assistants. I'm the audio assistant product manager for products like the Victor Reader Stream, Victor Reader Trek, and the Victor Reader Stratus.
And what about you, Dominique? Yeah.
And Dominique Labé, nice to meet you all. I'm a technical leader. I'm in charge of the development for both the Victor line of product, but also the Braille line of product, two brands, two type of products that actually read books. So I'm very interested in the topic being discussed today.
Many thanks to all for those short words about your companies. And now we can probably dive in some questions. Actually, I've got 5 questions for today, and we will try to discuss, to talk about those in a very round table meaning. That's not that easy, I know, but I think that it's interesting to try to share some views around those things. So my first question would be, what are the main challenges in developing and maintaining devices or apps for people with disabilities? Who want to try to answer first for this question?
Well, maybe if I could jump in from the Bond side, there is new things, new technologies, encryption schemes, standards coming in every year. And as mid-sized or small manufacturers, we are not afraid to invest, but we must invest on the right thing, bet on the right horse. So with limited resources, we must be sure that any upcoming new thing that we are asked, oh, please, could you support this or that? We must be very sure that the effort is worth doing it. Like there is something called EPUB 3, go or no go. There is the new encryption standard, like intent packaging, protection. Do we go for it or not? And it needs some tough discussion and see who is the partner, the partnership structure behind these things to decide go or no go. That's a constant problem that we are facing. So if you bring up something new, then please make a frame, like who is supporting it and what's the size of magnitude? Will it be a future standard or not?
To speak to Stefan's point, I completely agreed. The fact that, we're not big companies like Google and Apple and that can throw hundreds and hundreds of resources. I think there are more janitors at Apple than there are devs here at Humanware. So obviously we have to at some point scope out and determine and make sure that the effort, whatever it is, when we get approached by, sometimes it's a country, sometimes it's a private company, and they ask us, can you support our library onto your product? We need to scope out and make sure that, it is worth the effort. It's going to reach enough people, and also that the effort is not too big of an undertaking, because it's a portable device. We don't have as much hardware as we would in a full PC. So it's a balancing act for sure.
What about you, Matthias?
Yeah, I totally agree with what they say. We are limited in our resources for what's new and all that. But for Dolphin and Easy Reader, we have slightly different challenges because Easy Reader is a cross-platform solution that is available on 5-6 different platforms. So we are trying to make kind of provide the same user experience across all the platforms, regardless if it's a Windows or iOS or on a hardware device. And we need to make sure that the apps and the books are accessible for the users and in a streamlined way. On top of that, we also need to adopt to a test with all the screen readers and magnifiers available.
Mhm.
On Windows, there's quite many, but on iOS and Android platform, there are fewer, which is nice. But all the platforms are making, taking resources for us to make sure that we get a good experience across all platforms. That's a challenge for us.
That's interesting, and that can introduce my second question, actually. Would be something like, can you, or better said, can we try to describe the ecosystem that exists around the world that provides books, guidance, and skills for user of assistive technologies? Because obviously, here, we all know about this, but I'm quite sure that the audience or some part of the audience probably have not really an idea of this ecosystem. So can we try to summarize and to give some views about it? Who want to start with that?
I could go. So basically, it really varies where you are in the world. It really varies by country. In most countries, we see that the government has some sort of delivery system that where there's a library that will produce the books in the DAISY format and then deliver those books. But even then, it will really depend. Some countries will use the DAISY online protocol to deliver those books. But some countries, like for example, the United States, the UK, and France, have decided to go ahead and make their own protocol, which requires some custom development on our end to integrate onto our products. And I'm sure it's the same for my colleagues here. Whereas when a country uses DODP, for example, here in Canada, we can more easily integrate as that's a standard protocol. But it really varies depending on where you are in the world.
What do you mean about where you are in the world? Can you go a little bit deeper on that?
Yeah, well, certain countries will do things a certain way, certain countries, and that's where, a lack of standard really hurts. If everyone, we're in a situation a little bit like back in the day, and I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but where you had VHS and beta, you had to go with one or the other, and then eventually VHS won, and everyone adopted that standard. So it's a little bit the same here, where when a country approaches us and says, "Oh, we'd like for the people from our country to read books in our library, and we use a DAISY server," it's an easy integration. It takes a few weeks. We get it done. Whereas in other instances, like for example with RNIB, where they decided to use their own protocol and their own implementation.
In England, RNIB.
In England, correct.
Okay.
So there, it's several months of implementation, and obviously it's worth it because it's a big country. But yeah.
Okay. Stefan, what are your thoughts there? Or how can we try to give some more clues explaining the ecosystem?
Yeah, for the ecosystem, first, I very much agree with you, Mathieu. It's exactly the problems we are facing, and we were a bit surprised that RNIB by itself did not follow the DODP standard as a strong DAISY member in the past. However, there is new developments coming, and we must support them one way or another. But we also include, for instance, the Audible book libraries in our player.
Absolutely.
And that's another headache. It's a different system there as well. What is important, make it simple for the user. The user does not care if it's Audible or DAISY or EPUB. He or she just wants the book. And therefore, we should make the interface all the same, saying it's on the bookshelf and no matter what. So we try to simplify. As for the ecosystem, let's not forget still about the physical sending, which is still going strong. Like Switzerland or even in Germany, there are SD memory cards being sent by mail. And that's not so bad, actually, because people not always want to go immediately for online things. Maybe they are not used to go with Wi-Fi, etc.
Can you go a little bit deeper on this material because I'm not that sure that the audience can
Okay.
imagine that. So can
Yeah.
you just try
The-
to explain that? It's interesting.
The idea is that the library makes a physical envelope, like a letter, containing, traditionally it was a compact disc or even a cassette tape being sent to the home of a reader. And there is these CD players like from Humanware, etc., that play these things. But also there are memory cards being shipped. And then also the Victoria Stream or Milestone, other devices, they play the memory card physically. So the user puts this into the reader, then presses one button and the thing starts to play. And this is not so bad. It's something people naturally understand what they do because they have it in her hand. It will be replaced by Wi-Fi one way or another. But when it comes to Wi-Fi, then it must be simplified in another way, but that might be a follow-up question. But let's not forget about the physical shipment also.
What about you, Matthias? Because obviously the ecosystem is the ecosystem, and with your apps, you can have some not different thoughts, but probably some other thoughts, like thoughts plus.
Well, yeah. So it was mentioned the different protocols and all that, and we are connecting to almost 50 online libraries with a wide range of protocols and non-APIs as well, and web scraping in a couple of instances. So we are in that place now where we have to put resources into implementing different delivery mechanisms, just because that's how it will look like. I would love to have the same protocol, the same delivery mechanism, but I don't think that's a reality really going forward, because it's always something else around the corner which people are adopting to. So this is a challenge we have, but we have come around this issue quite well in EasyReader and providing a similar experience regardless of what protocol is used.
Okay. So my third one is something next, but very important as well. What are some of the most significant accessibility issues that your customers are currently facing, and how are your products addressing these issues? That's a good one, I think. Want to start? Yeah. No,
yeah,
go on.
If I may, I have a clear opinion on that. It's
okay.
Passwords, accessing. It's how to enter first step. You own Wi-Fi, how to enter password in the network there. And second, how to enter the library. There again, you have to set up a login account and a password. And there we demand from the user that he makes ping pong back and forth from his own network back to his device, then to the library, asks for the login, and then goes back and enter the damn thing. And how does it work? A third thing now is coming with encryption, digital rights management. NLS has this since a while. So I have
NLS is United States, isn't it?
Yes.
It's just for the audience can understand, because we have to remember that a lot of people here have no idea about who is RNIB, NLS, and so on.
Sorry for that. And
no problem.
I mean, these guys, like the Americans, they have encrypted content since a while, and it has been solved one way or another. I just feel sorry for the users to pass all these hurdles until they finally can read the book. And there we have chances with online systems to make this easier, but it would be good if there is a leader like EDR Lab or someone out there who can take the lead and say, this is how we think it could be done in a simple way.
I completely agree. I understand the need for DRM from the publisher's perspectives. Obviously, no one wants their, for one person to buy a book and disseminate it to thousands and thousands of people. I completely understand the philosophy behind it and everything, but it does make as Stefan mentioned, it does make things a lot more complicated. And Stefan mentioned Audible a little bit before, and how their headaches and everything, and we're facing the same issues here. We launched a new product recently, the new Stream, and we're trying to get Audible supported on it, and it's been a lot of back and forth and everything, and trying to get them to help us to integrate. So yeah, I think in terms of issues, if I had to use just a couple words to summarize it, I would say it's really lack of standards.
Lack of standards?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or too many of them.
Or too many, yeah, exactly. Lack of a single standard or too many of them. Yeah, exactly.
And are the customers, for instance, of Humanware targeting some other issues than standards and passwords?
Well, we also do hear about the availability of certain books. Like, for example, a lot of our users would love to be able to read books from Kindle, but that is not something that is possible at the current time. Obviously, we always speak with the people at Amazon, and we try to get solutions and whatnot. But yeah, there are distributors that just decide that the way that they're protecting their books will not just be accessible. So that is also one challenge we have.
Okay. Matthias, for Dolphin, what did you hear about your customers, the issues they faced, they are still facing? I don't know.
Well, I think one of the challenges that we have, what everyone have, is I would copy what Stefan just said in the beginning there with the ease of use, getting started. So, you know, the pace of technology and new devices and features go so quick, and very often the industry forgets about the ease of use and accessibility, which comes in second hand, which is a pity. So it's this is a challenge for everyone to try to make this easy to use and get started, because there's a lot of people out there which is not, you know, early adopters or power users like we are. So the ease of use, I think it's needs to be thought of much more.
Absolutely.
As we've got some time, probably, I will just try to grab one question more regarding the benefits of assistive technologies, because we just talked about the accessibility issues, but do you have some examples that can explain why a blind person or visually impaired is really happy to use those assistive technologies, and what kind of benefits they usually say they give about your technologies? Do you have an idea?
If I may, in my opinion, it's the reduction of functionalities. Like all our devices, they make a strict reduction. You don't have to have this or that function, maybe not an equalizer or whatever you need, despite some people might need it, but for most people not. So we take away the frills and the Schnörkels in German and limit it to something straightforward. And this is what people like on these devices typically.
I think reading should be fun, and sometimes with the regular technology, it could be doable, but challenging with a screen reader or something. Well, if you want to relax and read while having, for example, a assistive technology would just make the experience much easier. And again, for me, reading is always about getting knowledge, but also having fun. It's a hobby for me to read, and I hope that for our users, it remains a hobby, which means it needs to be simple and fun.
Hi.
Yeah, I have a little bit of an anecdote here, if I may, just 30 seconds. When I came into Humanware about 2.5 years ago, I was with the technical support team, and it was very frequent for customers to call in and have multiple Stream devices. I've had a customer who called in with 7 of them one time. It is their lifeline. It is their daily, you know, entertainment. They don't watch TV. They listen to books, and people would brag, "Oh, I've read like 360 books so far this year," and you're in June, and you're like, "Wow, that's impressive." So it really is something that they're passionate about. We have people who have, you know, they call us in and they go, "Oh, I have a milestone, I have a Stream, and I have a hymns player," and that's great. I mean, some people like a variety. They keep one in the office, one at home. It really is a lifeline for blind users to be able to, you know, read those books, listen to radio and so on those portable devices. And as Dominic mentioned, the ease of use is a big, and Matthias was also saying it, the ease of use is a huge factor.
Good point. Matthias, by
Yeah,
the Dolphin side?
Well, I just want to add, it was mentioned before, but making sure that the correct book and accessible book arrives in time. Because, for example, we have lots of students out there who wants to finish the classes, and if the book doesn't arrive in accessible manner, they will not finish the class and they will fail. So that's hugely important. We are in a better place today than many years ago, where some of the publisher files are born accessible, comes within in the right format, but it can be disrupted by DRM or other delivery mechanisms or apps or solutions that is not easy to use. So I think that is important to mention here.
Okay. So this one probably will be a little bit quicker or longer to answer, I don't know. But here we are. Here is the 2019-882 directive with born accessible contents in 2025. And the question is, how do you see the future of assistive technology evolving, particularly with the move towards EPUB 3 and Ridium LCP? Here we are. Who's gonna try to start to answer this one?
Well, let me start. I think we see a bright future. I think a accessible born content would allow everybody to have access to a given content, regardless of their abilities or lack of abilities, and in a timely manner. Sometimes accessible books will be available way after. Might be okay for a classic novel, but for things that are very popular, newspaper, magazine, you want to have access at the same time than sighted person. And we also see the future of being able to basically be assisting those users accessing mainstream content. Right now, we're helping those users, assisting them in reading accessible content that were made for a specialized library. Hopefully, in the very near future, we'll be able to assist them using mainstream content, the same content than a sighted friend would actually be using. Where we always have a little bit of fear, and it's the DRM. So we need to make sure that the DRM is to protect. Yeah, we understand to protect the content, but does not prevent people with disabilities from accessing. And sometimes it does, because whoever does the DRM will have a closed system with their own reading application that is not accessible. We've seen cases like this. Well, hopefully they won't be in the future. Hopefully everybody, the DRM will be interoperable, and that nobody will be precluded from reading because of their lack of abilities.
Good. Matthias, some ideas about this future, about EPUB 3, about LCP, or something else perhaps you've got?
Well, definitely an EPUB 3, because we do support EPUB 3, and some of our, just a few libraries right now are supplying EPUB 3 files. But we are talking to these online libraries on a regular basis, and there is a trend out there where they have an intention to switch from DAISY to EPUB 3 at some point. But this is a slow process, because it's a big project for them to switch, and there needs to be a really compelling reason for them to actually do the switch. But there definitely is a trend to move to EPUB 3. We also see that some of the commercial publishers are beginning to supply EPUB 3 files to these libraries. So it's making sure that the transformation to and delivery out to, for example, EasyReader or the HumanWare device is actually accessible content really quick. So we see that trend. In terms of the LCP, we are already supporting different DRM formats, and Redium LCP is one of them that which we are considering to do, but we haven't made any decisions yet if we're going to do it. Yes, as like we said, it will take resources, and we need to see what the benefits are for us and our users.
What about you, Stefan?
Well, first of all, it's about, well, DRM is about protection of content, and the content belongs to the publishers. There, I think Ideolab does exactly the right approach in taking the publishers into the boat from beginning on. That's very essential, very good. Also, it's important to roll out the whole thing across Europe, at least, even better with America or Eastern countries or Far East. But as I see it now, it's evolving in the exact right way. For us, we will support LCP, light content protection. It's a decision, and but it's very good that Ideolab also provides with Redium. They have access to a solution, to an example how to do it. They have the good feeling that it's not an academical solution. It's something theoretical, but it's something hands-on that can be used even with sample coding. This helps us a lot, and I think this is the very right approach.
Good. Before my big last questions, actually, when I was listening to you all, I've got just a couple of very short ones. First, just to be clear with the audience, when we are talking about libraries, are we talking about libraries for everybody, like public libraries, or are you talking only about libraries for people with disabilities? In another way, are you supporting some public libraries with your products?
Well, I can say that. So at the moment, no, we're not supporting any direct connections to any public libraries. No, but there is ability to sideload, download the content from the libraries into EasyReader if we support the file format and if it's correct DRM scheme or non-DRM scheme on it.
Okay.
Same thing for us at Humanware. We mainly connect directly on the device onto libraries for the blind, but if someone downloads a book from their local library and it's a format that we support, it'll read, they can transfer it onto device through either an SD card or directly through a computer in the internal memory and then read the content.
Okay.
I think the limit between public and non-public is not so strict. There is also initiatives like the Gutenberg, which makes EPUB books here and there. So since it's a general format, it can be used on a broad scale, not only by visually impaired persons. So that
Nice.
the borders are floating.
Okay. And my second short one would be, am I wrong if I say that when we talk about reading EPUB 3, we are at the same time talking about the acceptance of the text-to-speech thing? Do you have an idea of how the end users accept today to use those technologies to read, to listen to a book, for instance? Do you have some comments and some remarks or some feedbacks from your users, for instance, about that?
I think the newer generation are more used to synthetic voice as they're using them on PC and everywhere. It's still a human narrating book is, of course, a much more interesting experience for many of our users, especially in the older folk. But yeah, I think that the text-to-speech books are getting more and more accepted simply because people have been exposed to text-to-speech for a little bit longer, and it's getting more and more popular with users.
Okay.
There's another point. If it depends on the expectations of the user. Like for newspapers, things that need to be accessible in short term, people accept, of course, synthetic voice because there's no way. Every day the newspapers are being read by a human, but for a sophisticated book like a novel, there people would expect that it's read by a human, let's say even a capable human.
Mm-hmm. And what about Dolphin in this aspect? Do you have some kind of feedbacks around voices used with your apps to read, for instance, with Easy Reader?
No, not really. I agree with the previous speakers here that yeah, human narration, yeah, is absolutely needed for some books. Let's say also some study books where biology or mathematics needs to be pronounced absolutely correctly, which is a challenge for TTS voices.
Well, and in some cases, we are also able to read those EPUB 3 with Braille devices. I know that here around this table, we've got some manufacturers about Braille and the EPUB 3 experience. You have some feedbacks on that as well?
Well, certainly text material with text-to-speech or Braille allows to have newspaper. I think that's a big advance to be able to get a newspaper ready in the morning,
nice.
at the same time as a sighted person would receive either a print copy or an electronic copy. And of course, I think that Stefan had mentioned that it would not be possible to human record every newspaper every morning. It would be quite a logistical challenge. So I think the time-based content benefit from text material, both with text-to-speech or Braille, simply for the quickness of access, and basically that, well, last week newspaper is not that much interesting for most people. Well, if you need to get it at the same time than everybody. So Braille or text-to-speech does allow that human narrating. Like I said, it's probably better for novel or books that will last longer in the shelf of the libraries.
Interesting. Many thanks, Dominique. So my last big one is, what initiatives or collaborations are you excited about that will drive the future of assistive technologies? Who's going to go for that? Matthias?
Well, I was thinking about this one before. I was leaning towards talking about a little bit about, you know, AI and what challenges and what they can provide. That's quite exciting, I think. But I would like to see it slightly different here. So what I'm thinking is interesting going forward is the Marrakesh Treaty and what we can do in the world to provide local solutions and books, accessible books for developing countries. When we have that in place for African, some Asian countries, etc., that will have a major impact for perhaps millions of people. That I see as exciting.
And you're right, we are celebrating this year the 10th anniversary of this Marrakesh Treaty. So it's important to see. What about you, Humanware, on this aspect of this last question? Do you have some thoughts, something to say?
Certainly support what Matthias just said. So I will add other topics, but I do agree with what he just said. But what we look very forward is hopefully some effort in standardization. So in a perfect world, it should not matter where the books come from, who produce it. It should be made available, accessible, and everybody should be able to do stuff. The same thing as I can get a movie, a DVD, a Blu-ray made by any companies, put that in my DVD player and it plays, right? I think we need to achieve the same thing with books. So I would definitely look forward for any collaboration where publishers get together, or either forced by some government or because they have all the interest to do so, but to end up with as much as possible with common technologies, not 25 DRM with 26 ways of transferring online and et cetera, et cetera. You see, especially with assistive technology, we're dedicated companies, but we're not big companies, and there's a limit of the number of things we can do in a year. So in a perfect world, there will be a smaller number of things that we need to do, and we get the result of having book accessible to every of our users in every countries with the less number of different technology to integrate.
Maybe if I could add to that, first of all, I agree very much with you, Dominic, and also Mathieu. Thanks for this. I think one step that we could provide, even as small companies, also moving into some sort of AI and working together with libraries, providing content in advising the end user what to read, because he or she has the problem where do I get my next great book? Like, what should it be? Some libraries do this by telephone, like with personal consulting, advisory, and then they put it on the shelf to waiting to be downloaded. But that's a typical topic for AI. If the computer finds out I'm interested in these criminal stories or cooking books, then he will line them up, mixed with the newspaper that I like to read, or maybe even special topics that the machine knows I'm interested in. There I see a lot of potential for AI for the visually impaired to provide the choice room.
Yeah, kind of like what Amazon does. If you might like these movies because you like this movie. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely.
And regarding collaborations, am I wrong if I say that some of you started some kind of sharing some things, I think, no?
I'm positively surprised that we sit in the same boat. We have the same issues in the same market. So maybe we could join forces somehow, maybe to achieve results faster. I always prefer to be on the success with somebody else instead of being in the desert alone.
Obviously. And Dolphin and Humanware started something, am I wrong? Well, is Zerida Plus? Can we just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, we do have some collaboration. We're providing some easy reader technology into the Humanware devices. That's
for
what we do
Braille,
today.
I mean, no?
For Braille users, yes. But I think Dominic can talk more about his devices.
Yeah, it's both on the Braille Note Touch, and again, that's product I'm less familiar, but some of our low vision products also benefit from easy reader technology. On the other side, for the Victor Reader Stream and Brilliant, we have our own technology based on our previous products. So I think that, yeah, those are collaboration, but what I would like is the same type of collaboration we had while the DAISY Consortium was heading some activities where if together we could work together and make sure that the publisher, make sure that the non-assistive technology world produce stuff that would be easier for people with print disability to access. Of course, I'll always be happy to work with Stefan, Matthias, and other companies to make sure that we get content. That's our challenge. I mean, making sure we give content to all users at the same time with the same quality. And our job is to bridge, make sure it's accessible, but we need the raw material, which is the books, to be available for those people as soon as the printed version or the regular electronic version is available.
Well, congratulations. We all finished our questions, and I think that we give such good answers to bring more explanations for everybody, those who already know about assistive technologies and those who probably never heard before about that. Gauthier, do we have some questions in the lobby chat or here, or no questions at all?
No, I see no question yet. So to all our attendees, it's time. If you have a question, you have the Q&A button in the Zoom interface, and you can also speak in the chat panel. But maybe you have provided so much information that I believe everyone will have to take time to
think about that and to go deeper on that.
I would like to really thank all of each of you for all those amazing insights, and it is very important for us to have you with us as we see the whole ecosystem changing, and we recognize that you are key players for people with print reading disabilities. And as IDEA Lab, we are really willing for further collaboration to see the emergence of a strong, interoperable, accessible reading ecosystem, and we are ready to dedicate resources to that.
And I know that IDEA Lab is already working on giving a hand in how to implement Iridium LCP, I think. It's not a secret, isn't it?
No, it's not a secret. We have started the discussion, and we have to see things happen. And yes, really, we hope to be there on your side on this journey to make.
That's good to know. Many thanks once more to EDR Lab. Thank you to all our panelists for participating in this roundtable. And I think that we did this roundtable as a roundtable, so I'm quite happy with that. And thank you to Marie-Laure de Rocher for all the arrangements. It was so precious to have you next to us. Stay tuned, more sessions will follow. See you, bye-bye, many thanks to all.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.